How do you save money doing all these projects, you're wondering? By buying used parts. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Southdown Garage. My name is Kurt, and today we're putting in lowering springs in the Ford Explorer, and we're gonna get that nice ride height. Exactly what we want, right? So let's get into it right now. Well, you're wondering what kind of tools we need to take this apart. Well, the front, you need a 13 mil, a 21, and a 10 to move everything out of the way. Those little brackets. That's easy. The back seemed... I've done these before on the back, and this is the easiest portion. Thanks, Ford, for not making this easy. So we're going to start on the hardest part of this, and we're going to do the back first, because that was fun. I'm not going to show you taking the wheels off. I'm going to show you basically what bolts to undo. And then we're going to try to make this less painful than I did the other side. And we're going to hope for the best. And it seems that the springs are about the same length. So using these little tools here isn't the easiest. What we have to do is remove the wheel, remove the shock, and we have to undo the suspension, and we have to undo the arm so you can swing it down. There's no nice way to do this. I'm going to try to make my life easier by putting the killer clamps on the stock spring so I can hold some of the tension, and that way it will make it easier to get everything off. So I'm just going to get into it. Let's just turn this a little bit. Okay, so you see how we're turning this into place? So we've got the lip under here. The spring stops against, and we're going to turn it until it stops. See that? Stops. It ain't going anymore. So that means it's in the bottom. It's in the top. It's all where it needs to be. Make sure that everything stops in here, okay? Before you put this all back together. Now you're asking, Kurt, how'd you get everything apart? That's simply, so I took this upper control arm bolt out. It's really fun to get back in there. I loosened that bolt there, which is actually on the other side there. You can see it right yonder. Loosened that bolt. So I removed this toe arm. I also loosened off, if you can't see it in the back there, I loosened off that bolt there. That's your toe adjustment. So when we put all this back together, I can make sure that's all lined up where it's supposed to be. Now that we've got this spring in here, we can start putting everything back together. So we're going to jack everything back up again. And yeah, this should be fun. To make sure the alignment shop has the least amount of work to do, and then we will go from there. That in the bottom. You don't want to be the guy on the internet or gal that mess their Explorer up at the track because they didn't do this part. I'm just going to put a little bit inside the nut. Put that on. Now that we've got all of that done, we need to load the suspension up so we can tighten everything under there. and we want to get it really good and tight. You don't want any of that suspension coming off. It's really hard to loosen all this stuff off under there, just so you can swing this out. I'm sure someone's gonna say you don't need to do all this stuff, but I did, just because it made my life a heck of a lot easier. I tried not doing it. I tried doing it the lazy way. It didn't work. So now we got to load up the suspension. You want to make sure it's at ride height, then set all your adjustments. We will move on to throwing the wheel back on after everything is tightened up, and we'll move on to the front. Make sure your jack is tight too. I can slide under there and tighten everything up. 21 mil, actually I'm using a 15/16 and a 21 mil. These are your friends. Oh, I didn't know I had friends. Well, ain't that a peach? So Ford engineers strike again. Let's put a bolt way in back here, because just in case you thought this vehicle was hard enough to get some of the weirdest things out, yeah, you're like, oh, nice. So get a ratcheting wrench in there and just take your sweet time. You could take this off, but I'm lazy and I won't do that. I will only do that if it takes me a long time, and then it will take me even longer. Anyways, besides the point, don't worry. Some smart engineer created this and they thought, oh, I never have to work on it. That's right. They're smart. You can't talk to me like that. I'm an engineer. Now that we have that done, you want to make sure that that bolt is out first before you start working on these bolts here. So just take off this one, remove the tie rod, and unbolt this, get it out of the way so it's not flopping around, and then we can pull the shock out easy peasy, throw on the new coil, and put it back in. It's important when you take this out to watch where this is orientated, because there's a spacer on the top that like angles in different directions. You want that line facing forward. I will show you what I mean. So you want to take the nut off this side because there's a shoulder on this side of the bolt. I'll show you. See what I mean? So there's a shoulder here. So you don't want to spin this side, you want to spin that nut off here. So we're going to go ahead and remove this bottom one as well. That's it. Okay, that's out. So if you look at the sway bar end link here, we have a T45 22 mil. Now we're gonna unbolt the top here and let it eat. Wow, that's weird. Up we go. You see this line here? It's facing the front of the vehicle. So when we go to put this back in, we have to make sure we put this back in the same way. We're gonna pop this cap off. Underneath there, there's a 10 mil bolt, or there's 10 mil hex head, and this nut's 21 mil. And you're going to tighten this to loosen the nut, but make sure we put our coil spring compressors on here before we go psycho and take that off. Now let's get this apart and put this other spring back on. That's better. You gotta find that section where it's like sort of on an angle, not sketchy enough for you. Well, it's back on the ground. We've made sure to change up the police interceptor wheels with some nice 22-inch niche wheels wrapped in Nitto's NT420Vs 22 by 40 R22s. That should get us down the drag strip quickly and effectively with this Explorer. Sticky Nitto tires, they're not quite as expensive as your Michelin Pilots or your Continentals. They're quite a bit cheaper, but they're very sticky tires, and I've been told I can air them down to about 20 psi to get that sticky, grippy feel at the track. Coming up next video, but first let's get a montage of this vehicle. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Southdown Garage. If you like this video, hit that like button, consider subscribing, and if you're liking what we're doing, head over to our merch store, southdowngarage.shop. Pick out a sweater, a t-shirt. It's nice weather, so maybe not a sweater, but we've got some nice t-shirts to check out. Let us know how we did in the comments, and you'll want to be here next time for the race against the Explorer versus the Hellcat that hopefully goes down this time because it was canceled last event due to the weather being too cold. We're hoping for the nice weather for this event. Have a wonderful day, take care, and we'll see you in another episode of Southdown Garage. Bye for now.